Another person has tested positive for the coronavirus in England, bringing the total number of cases to 4 across the UK. A flight carrying more British nationals from China has touched down at RAF Norton, with passengers being taken to a conference centre in Milton, Keynes for 2 weeks quarantine. Here's our health editor, Hugh Pym.
A bumpy ride, but at least the passengers on this final evacuation flight from Wuhan were a lot closer to home. The plane touched down at RAF Norton in Oxfordshire early this morning, and about 120 British travellers disembarked. They were put on buses for a similar convoy to the one which had taken others to a hospital on the Wirral just over a week ago. This time, those who'd arrived were taken to a hotel and conference facility in Milton Keynes, block booked by the NHS for their 2-week quarantine. They'll stay in rooms like this, and those who don't have them will be lent game consoles, tablets and mobile phones and have access to Netflix. As they arrived, there was news elsewhere of the 4th coronavirus case in this country. The latest patient who's tested positive for the virus in the UK is being treated here at the Royal Free Hospital in North London at its Specialist Infectious Diseases Treatment Unit. It's emerged that this case is linked to one announced last Thursday, a man in Brighton who contracted the virus on a visit to Singapore. He had returned from Asia, and before developing symptoms he went to an alpine ski resort. It was announced yesterday that 5 Britons staying there had been infected. It seems that while in France he'd also met the man who's now at the Royal Free Hospital. The Chinese ambassador in London, meanwhile, was seeking to reassure the British public.
There's no reason to be panicked. The Chinese government has adopted the most comprehensive, strict, conventional control measures.
The World Health Organization said it was hard to predict the future spread of the virus.
The question remains as to whether we're in a lag phase and the rate of infection may pick up, or whether we're seeing more what is the natural history of the disease. And it's way too soon to tell that, but it is why these clusters are very unfortunate, and we feel particularly sorry for families who get caught up in this. It's a very frightening time.
Quarantining is a key part of attempts to stop the virus spreading in the UK. Those who arrived today can only hope they're given the all clear after 14 days. Hugh Pym, BBC News.
Another patient has tested positive for coronavirus in England, bringing the total number of cases in the UK to 4. It comes as a flight carrying British nationals home from China has returned to the UK. The passengers have been taken to a conference centre in Milton Keynes, where they'll be placed in quarantine for 14 days. John Donnison reports.
The latest British victim is now being treated at the Royal Free Hospital in North London. They apparently picked the virus up in France from another British person already confirmed as infected. And this morning, the last UK evacuation flight out of the Chinese city of Wuhan, epicentre of the virus, touched down at RAF Norton, carrying around 200 British and foreign nationals.
We have not got everybody out, we know that. Unfortunately, 2 people failed temperature checks early this morning. They've had to go back into Wuhan.
A convoy of buses transported those British citizens who made it back to a hotel and conference centre in Milton Keynes, out of China, but still not in the clear. We understand that there are about 150 passengers on these coaches who have now been evacuated from Wuhan. All of them are, for the moment, we're told by NHS staff, in good health. This will be their home, though, for the next 2 weeks, where they'll be kept in isolation. The coronavirus has now killed more than 800 people, surpassing the number who died from SARS back in 2003. More than 37,000 people are known to be infected across the globe, a figure that continues to rise sharply.
The question remains as to whether we're in a lag phase and the rate of infection may pick up, or whether we're seeing more what is the natural history of the disease. And it's way too soon to tell that, but it is why these clusters are very unfortunate, and we feel particularly sorry for families who get caught up in this. It's a very frightening time.
Those now in quarantine here in the UK face an anxious wait, and globally there is no sense the coronavirus crisis is anywhere near to an end. So 150 people in quarantine here in Milton Keynes. That's on top of 100 people still in isolation up on the Wirral. And news this morning from Mallorca that a British man has also tested positive for coronavirus. His wife and 2 daughters, though, have been given the all clear. Martine.
John, thank you very much. John Donnison in Milton Keynes.